Tabitha is the chief marketing officer at Stanley Black & Decker, and I'm really thrilled to have her with us today. For everybody's benefit. So first of all, welcome, Tabitha. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, no worries. Just for everyone's benefit, I don't want to make the presumption that everyone knows, the industry and whatnot that you're coming from. But Stanley Black & Decker is a $14 billion global diversified industrial powerhouse with a really robust portfolio of brands in the tools and storage, as well as security services and industrial segment. I know that the brand portfolio includes well-known names like Stanley, Black & Decker, DeWalt, Craftsman, Irwin, and Lennox. Many of those brands, which I have here in my house, so I'm very excited about that. And as I mentioned, Tabitha, you are the Chief Marketing Officer of the Global Tools and Storage portfolio, overseeing the entire global marketing team, which includes brand marketing, digital marketing, industrial design, insights and studios, and that team is completely global. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it represents about $10 billion of the total business. So no small task ahead of you for sure. So, in order to kick this off, why don't you tell us a little bit about your career path to becoming a Stanley Black & Decker CMO?
Absolutely. And Christine, thank you so much for a great introduction as well. It's an honor to be here with you. Your bio is as amazing as it can be, with over 20 years of experience as well. And you've accomplished great stuff. So wow. And here I have my coffee too. Also positioning one of our Craftsman brands there. So I totally get that. Well, I'll tell you all a little bit about myself. I never thought I would be a CMO. That's the first thing I would tell you. When I was in school, I wanted to be Secretary General of the United Nations. I went and studied international relations. I thought that was going to be my path. Little did I know I would end up with this marketing career. I was actually born and raised in Mexico City. I started working at Procter & Gamble right after school. And I worked there for about 13 years. I worked out of Mexico City. I also lived in Cincinnati. I lived in Germany for a few years. I lived in Switzerland also for a few years. And then I ended up coming back to the US, to Baltimore in 2010. So I've been here about 10 years now. I ended up leaving Procter & Gamble when they divested about $10 billion of beauty businesses. And I went with the divestiture along with 10,000 other employees. And I ended up in this great company called Coty. The problem I had is that Coty had their headquarters in New York City. And my office was literally in the Empire State. So I tried to commute there back and forth for about 6 months until the company was like, okay, you're a VP of the Rimmel brand. You've got to move here. And I was like, I can't do that. And it was like a clash with my personal life at that point because I had a little kid and I just couldn't move my kid to New York. I'm a single mom too. So it was a little bit of a hard decision. And I said, I've got to find another path. And that's when I entered Stanley Black & Decker, and I joined there as the Vice President of Brand Marketing about 3.5 years ago. And about a year ago, in October last year, I took the CMO role there. And that's where I have the privilege to work right now on these amazing brands and with really amazing people.
That's awesome. Great. And so when you're thinking a little bit about the upcoming year, obviously we've undergone quite a bit of change in 2020. Tell us what's on your mind when you're thinking about building your 2021 marketing strategy.
Well, the one thing that's always on my mind is customer experience. This year, I think, has proven that more than ever. The one thing we need to do as companies, as marketeers, as chief marketing officers, is really provide a frictionless customer experience. In today's world, this is a must. Every consumer, and we all experience this on our day-to-day lives, we use brands like Starbucks, like Amazon, like Sephora, that provide these experiences that are fantastic. And now everybody's being compared to them, and it doesn't matter what industry you work in. So in today's world, every customer is focused on convenience, and COVID has exacerbated this. So what's happening is customers want to purchase our brands whenever, wherever, and however they choose. And we have to be there for them. We have to be able to get to them with personalized content, with personalized messaging, and really understand them as individuals. And this is so important to us because if we don't do that, we're going to lose our customers. So that's why really, really focusing on this frictionless customer experience is the one thing on my mind. And how do I get my organization to do this? How do I help transform my team and the processes and the way we work to enable this?
That's awesome. And, clearly one of the hot topics of the year is that resources and budgets are stretched thin and everyone is, uber hyper focused on ROI. How do you ensure that the strategy that you set forth has a really strong impact on the bottom line?
It's a great question because it is certainly a subject that most marketers are dealing with right now. What I will say is, and I've had the same push, right? We've got to deliver the bottom line. And that's where I've been, okay, we have to take a step back because yes, the bottom line is important, but we need a strategy that's holistic, an integrated strategy that includes the short term, but also the long-term needs of the company. And that's why I always say we need to have a balance between what we invest in growth that delivers immediate ROI and also what are our investments in strategic foundational things that the business needs for its long-term success. Because if we don't have this balance, we are going to start creating what I like to call a technology debt. And what happens is if you don't start investing in those foundational platforms now that do not give you an immediate ROI, but will help in the longer term, you will end up with a technology debt that could be in millions, and for companies that are really big, in the hundreds of millions of dollars. It's better to do it piece by piece than do it later all at once. And what I'll tell you is on the immediate ROI piece, what we make sure we do is that every marketing plan, every marketing campaign we put out there, it has metrics. And we really measure ourselves against that. And if we're not hitting them, we pivot and we make them deliver those metrics.
That's great. And, you had mentioned that you're really focused on a customer-centric marketing strategy. If you had to give like a piece of advice to our audience to make sure that they're looking at those right insights and creating content that really resonates and thinking about the metrics that matter, what would those be?
What I would tell you is put the customer at the center of everything you do. Ensure you understand your brand segmentation. Ensure you really get to know your customers. Know who they are, what they like, what makes them tick, what do they aspire to be, what inspires them, what motivates them, what do they dislike. Because if you know this, whatever content you develop is going to be right on for them. It's going to be meeting their needs. I also would encourage you to do A and B testing. In today's digital world, it is so easy to do that. We can test different types of content and we can see what's working best. And we can immediately pivot the content as well. So I would recommend, if possible, set up aside some dollars in your budgets to pilot new things. And what I tell my team is if we're going to fail while we learn, we fail quickly and we fail cheaply. But then we learn from the failures and we move on. We have to be open to trying new things because that's how we learn. But above all, it's not about the content we like. It's about the content our customers like and that content that they can connect with.
You mentioned, the digital transformation. When you think about the different product lines, I mean, you have so many brands that you oversee, and thinking about the product lines and the digital transformation, are there some product lines that respond better or worse to that digital transformation?
Actually, I think all brands benefit from this digital transformation. It really doesn't matter if they're in the B2C or in the B2B space. It's just a matter of doing it at the right time for the specific brand. For example, right now, our power tool business is on fire. It's amazing, right? We're selling a lot. We have a ton of customers that are doing a lot of do-it-yourself projects at home. And that's benefiting our power tool business a lot. So we needed to make sure that our efforts in this digital transformation would focus that part of the business first and foremost, right? Because that's an immediate need. But it doesn't mean that the other parts of the business don't need it. So pretty much what I'll tell you is every brand needs it. Every part of the business needs it. I think because you can't do it all at one, you've got to pick where you're going to have the most impact up front and start there.
And when you think about like key lessons and takeaways, like what are the key lessons from 2020 and things that you'll take into 2021 that you'll carry with you?
Well, I'll give you a combination of two. We'll start first with what we've learned because COVID, we can't ignore that, right? We're all living it. It's impacting the way we live our lives every day. It has taught me many things, but I think two key things that COVID has taught me and that I would take into 2021 is that we need to be aware of what everybody's going through. Everybody's going through something. It's something different, but we are all going to something. So we need to be kind. We need to be graceful. We need to be really kind with one another. And don't forget that because in these times, that's critical. The second piece that I'll tell you I've learned through COVID is this whole idea of work-life integration. I personally don't like the term work-life balance. I've never been able to do that. But work-life integration, especially with COVID, I can do it now. I have, like I said, I have a kid, he's 6 years old. I'm a single mom, so I have to balance work and my kid. And with COVID, I mean, everybody who has kids has experienced this. It gets messy, right? You have to put them on Zoom calls. You have to get them lunch, like things you normally don't do because you're at the office and they're at school or at an activity. So I've learned that my calendar is one blended calendar, and I have times for my kid and I have times for my work and I have times for me, but it's no longer my 5 to 8, my 8 to 5 work time. It's totally integrated. So those are the two big takeaways I would say that COVID has taught me. Now, if we want to talk business, from a business side, what I will tell you, there's a couple. One is the need for agility and resiliency in an organization. This is going to be the norm going forward because the world just has accelerated in a transformation at a really fast pace. The second one is the fact that frictionless end-to-end customer experience needs to happen. You are not going to succeed as a business if you don't figure out how to provide this for your customers. This is crucial. New businesses that are being successful, that are startups, they are doing this really, really well. So everybody needs to jump on this boat. The other one is that it's so important for organizations to really undertake this end-to-end digital transformation and really figure out what's the right marketing tech stack and go figure out how to map it and how to make it happen. Because if not, you're incurring to this technology that we talk up front. And last but not least, I would say it's about the clear content strategy. There is an ever-growing need for content in the omnichannel experience today. Everybody is engaging with their brands the way they want, but they also want individual messaging, and that individual messaging requires a ton more content that we've had in the past. And every touch point, whether it's an e-commerce, website, email marketing, social media, requires content. So that's why having a very clear content strategy is going to be crucial because the amount of content that's needed out there is just exponentially growing.
To tack on to that response, you know, you talk about the tech stack and trying to avoid tech debt. You know, during COVID, you know, was there a big push to reevaluate what your marketing tech stack looked like? And can you talk a little bit about, you know, maybe some of the tools and technologies that Stanley Black & Decker uses?
Absolutely. Stanley Black & Decker is a company that grew really, really fast. We went from a couple $1 billion to $14 billion in less than 10 years. So we had a fast growth. And when that happens, like not all of your tech stack and that work, what you're investing is laid out at an enterprise level, right? So you have pockets of work happening that are maybe not all aligned. So one of the things that we've been trying to do this year is how do we globalize our tech stack? How we make it more enterprise focused? So we are working with different partners out there to build this end-to-end digital ecosystem, and we have laid our tech stack on what kind of technology do we need to drive data for the end users, right? And connect all the data points we have with customers, and really understand who our customers are. We have a lot of other tech stack to work on customer service, for example, which they're different platforms. But the really nice thing about tech stack is if you do it right, you can connect it all in the back end. So you just become smarter and you can leverage better your insights and analytics piece as well. So what I say is, like, we have been trying to transform our tech stack to meet the changing needs of the customer and the changing needs of the world that we have. We're doing it at an accelerated pace because that's what's required to win. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's quite a bit of change going on over on your side, so I'm sure it's tough to keep pace with it. I just want to be mindful of time, so just to wrap up, you know, if you had to narrow it down to one piece of advice for 2020 for our audience, what would you tell them? What would it be?
Well, let me see. I would say think about the customer. I will always come back to the customer, especially when you think about the marketing world. Think about the customer. What does the customer need in this ever-changing landscape? How do you know the customer well and create a really seamless customer experience? You don't need to do it all at once. You can start small, but map out what your ideal scenario is and then work your way through it. Because again, if we want to win in this new world, you have to be able to provide a frictionless customer experience.
I couldn't agree more. I'm all about you know, being customer centric and trying to make sure you meet the customer where they are at. So I can appreciate that sentiment. Well, thank you so much for taking the time with us today. I really, really appreciate it. I know you're a busy lady, and so I appreciate it even more.